Hey there! We'd love for you to hit that subscribe button. By subscribing, you're helping us spread the word and connect with more amazing people like you.
Welcome to We Be Parents, where parent doctors Matthew Letterman and Alona Pulday explore current parenting topics, share stories, and help bring families closer together.
Welcome to We Be Parents, the podcast where we support your family's growth through connection, collaboration, and shared humanity. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Alona Pulday.
And hi, I'm Dr. Matthew Letterman.
And today we're digging into a moment every parent faces when our kids break an agreement and disappointment doesn't seem to land.
Agreements seem to be broken frequently. In fact, they were broken so frequently that we started calling them experiments because they just seem to change, especially in a collaborative, non-permissive household where you want to make sure everybody's needs matter. And sometimes initially the agreement sounds like a great idea. And then all of a sudden I realize, wait, all my needs aren't met or all their needs aren't met. So we got to come back to the drawing board.
Yes, indeed, indeed.
So before we jump into this, we definitely need to have everybody subscribe to our podcast. That really helps us out, helps spread the word. We appreciate it. And then I want to see how you're doing.
Oof, I'm exhausted. I'm emotionally drained. And this is the perfect topic to discuss because sometimes I think if I didn't know the cost of disconnection, there would be so many times where I would just want to be authoritarian and have obedience. Sadly, I know the cost of disconnection, and it's so much greater that I choose to be exhausted. But you know what? In a house where we have an 11 and a 13-year-old, both girls going through puberty, hormones raging, it's a roller coaster, and I am motion sick. So that's where I am today. How about you?
Oh, wow. That was vivid. But I hear the motion sickness on the roller coaster. I'm having my ups and downs too. I feel like that's the more I go with it, then I think I'm on steady land. I remember I'm actually on a surfboard and I'm on the ocean and we're just moving. And
you don't know how to swim.
I got my life jacket on, and it's just a matter of some days I'm handling the waves better, and other days I'm getting knocked on my behind.
Yeah. Yes.
But today, actually, I feel pretty good right now. I feel that, took a shower. That's always a good thing.
For all of us.
Yes.
Yes.
So
diving into today's topic, underlying it all, I think, is heartache around feeling ignored. And then the futility of defaulting to punishment, even though sometimes that just seems so much easier. We all want our kids to follow through, especially when we spent so much time collaboratively putting forward an agreement that we believe we're all on the same page around. And then boom, agreement fails. Somebody didn't live up to it or meet it.
And worse, it seems like it happens over and over again. And I have a story in my head that it doesn't really matter to them. So it's not these big agreements where there's this naturally big consequence. It's more like it's something that we talked about. It's important to me. It's not particularly making or breaking their lives. And they just sort of forget about it. And it's this weird balance where I truly don't believe that they don't care. I believe they do care. That was a double negative. So it's like, I really believe that they do care. And there's so much going on in their world, in their heads, and they have these brains that aren't fully developed, that it just doesn't get on the radar. And then when they fail to follow through, they still feel guilty and ashamed about it.
Yes.
And they say, well, I'll remember next time. And I don't doubt that they really intend to remember next time.
Oh, I do. No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
But
yes.
Yet they do.
Every time.
So then the question is, what do we do? And what my parents did was they punished. What most parents do is they punish. Because the thing that you want them to do isn't big enough to really get their attention to remember on their own. So like, well, if we scare them enough, maybe then they'll remember.
Yeah. If we make it hurt enough, they'll remember. Yes. Yes, indeed.
And those are clear needs. It's not that we want to hurt them. When parents do that, they're trying to meet needs for mattering and predictability. I get it. I default to that when I'm not fully aware of, not really connected to my skills. And I do it quite often in ways that can be painful. But ideally, I also connect to, hey, I'm not coming from a bad place. I'm just trying to meet needs for predictability, that they're not, if it's big enough, if it's painful enough, they're not going to do it again, or they're going to be less likely. They're going to think twice. And at least they're going to hear me. It's going to matter. Hey, look how upset Dad got. Look at the punishment they delivered.
Yeah. Adding beyond predictability and matter when it comes to punishment, it's also ease. I just want this to stop enough already. And I don't want to put any more effort into making it so. And that's what we're going to explore today, because that's one strategy when natural consequences don't seem to be enough. And by natural consequences, I mean our disappointment or our upset around a broken agreement. Sometimes that just doesn't feel like enough. And yes, punishment is one strategy, but what we want to talk about today is how can we increase impact without falling back on punishment? And
that actually applies to me as well as the children, and adults as well.
Oh,
and at some point we'll talk about my dishwasher challenges.
Maybe we can talk about them today. Actually, they fall right into today. And I love that you brought that up. And I would love for you to share when, we start getting into the topic a little bit more, but to show that, we're not immune to that behavior either. We fall into breaking agreements as well. And the more that we can connect to the impact that had, the more we can come to the table in this collaborative way that is meaningful enough that we won't forget, or makes us more likely not to forget, or makes it less painful when we do forget for the other person. And we'll talk about that.
This episode of We Be Parents is brought to you by We Be Calm, the child calmer designed by doctors and loved by parents.
Struggling with bedtime routines or managing your child's anxiety? We Be Calm transforms deep breathing into a fun and engaging activity, helping kids find their inner calm. Perfect for bedtime stressful moments or anytime your child needs a little extra help to stay calm. Visit webecalm.com to learn more and bring tranquility to your family. We Be Calm, because we be in this together.
I thought maybe it would be helpful to kind of to share how we're defining punishment versus impact.
Okay.
And so when we talk about punishment, it's one-sided. The parent is really imposing the consequence. And oftentimes it doesn't even connect to what happened. So it could be the kid a kid came in and lied to you, and you take away their device privilege for the day. A doesn't have to do with Z, so the kids are not even connecting it. All they're looking at is, it's my parents took that away from me.
Yeah, like grounding.
Right, like grounding. Yeah. Versus a collaborative approach is really when the parent and the child co-create a follow-through. And it's anchored in memory and meaning, not in control and pain. If it hurts enough, you're going to actually listen. No, if it's meaningful enough, you'll actually remember. Punishment focuses on obedience. Impact and connecting to impact builds responsibility by connecting you to internal motivation. What drives you to show up differently and behave differently?
And that's why when you co-create what's going to with the result, the consequence, it's driven by them trying to meet their need to care for you as well. So that co-creation is so important so that you can actually make sure that it's coming from inside them, not being imposed by you.
Yes. And in that co-creation, it's rooted in the specific agreement that was broken or missed versus some arbitrary or random consequence. They're not connecting.
Or the kid was bad. So here's your consequence because you were bad. You behaved badly.
Mm-hmm. And ultimately if it's coming from impact, our intention is to share or to ask, what would help this matter to you in a way that you'll remember versus I'm going to inflict enough pain in this situation that you will remember.
Exactly, because there you give the child the benefit of the doubt. Mm-hmm. They want to remember. If you're inflicting punishment when they don't remember and you have this energy of you're a bad kid because you don't care and you don't remember, you would have remembered if it's important enough to you. Mm-hmm. That's not true. That's not accurate. They care and they want to remember and they feel ashamed when they don't. They don't meet their own needs when they don't remember. So help them connect to that and then help raise the stakes so that they're more likely to remember in a way that's fun and it's gamified and it's almost like a competition with themselves.
Yes. Yes. Let's talk about where this came about.
So where this came about, well, for us, it's sort of peppered its way through our entire parenting mm-hmm. career. But specifically what made me think of this for this episode was with Kylie and Jordan and our agreement to turn off the iPad at 7 o'clock. We'd already talked about the health of the iPad and being off your device. And we all agreed comfortably that turning it off at 7 p.m. and being off all devices, parents and children included, was the agreement. And then what would happen is 7:01, I look up and they didn't turn it off. And I said, well, what happened here? We had the agreement. Oh, we forgot. We're so sorry. It matters. Okay, great. I hear that it matters. We repaired. What are you going to do to help you remember? Then they set alarms for 7 o'clock. And I'm like, okay, great. This is going to work. And 7:01 there. And I'm like, what happened? And they're like, I don't know, Dad. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't know? And they said, well, our alarm didn't go off. I'm like, I don't know if that's true. I think it went off. And so the next night.
Oh, yes. Then we have the informer. It did go off. I saw you swiping up.
Well, that's what she did. So the next night, Jordan, our little informer, comes over to me and says, Dad, I saw Kylie swipe it up and just keep going. And Kylie, then when I asked her about that, she said, I don't remember that at all, Dad. And rather, I really believe, because I've done that too, where I'm not paying attention and I just swipe. Yes. And she has so many alerts, that's another conversation. And it's a whole other show, is how to turn off all of the alerts and badges and notifications, which we're working through. But then she was like, Dad, I really didn't mean to swipe up and I'm sorry. And one of our agreements was if we don't follow through with the 7 o'clock deal with the alarm and not swiping up, that I'm going to turn on screen time so it automatically turns off your phones at 7 o'clock. And Kylie particularly doesn't like that. For her, it feels like she's a little kid and she doesn't want to have her phone being controlled. She actually, at 7 o'clock, takes her phone and puts it in the kitchen for the whole night. So it's not a fact that she wants to sneak her phone. She just doesn't like having these external barriers on her.
Oh, autonomy is a very important need for her.
Yes. So she's totally fine keeping her phone in the kitchen, but she doesn't want screen time. And I said, well, the deal was if we can remember before, we need to come up with something that works for you and for me. Because just saying I'm sorry and hoping next time you're going to get it isn't enough. And that's when she said, well, Dad, how about if we turn on screen time for a week if I forget again? And that's sort of where we were at, where she has to turn on screen time for a week, even though she doesn't like it. And what was interesting, actually, was before we got to that, I said, what do you think we should do? And she said, I have no idea. And this is where I think this is important because this is the non-permissive part of collaborative, non-permissive parenting, is that I said, okay, I really want your ideas too, but I'm not okay just leaving it up to chance. So how about I turn on screen time, and then when you come up with a better idea that works for you and for me, we'll turn it off. So for about an hour and a half, we had she said, Dad, that's fine. We had screen time on, And then she came to me on after. She says, Dad, what I'd rather do is give you $5 if I forget, because $5 is really important to me from my money, and I'd like to try that. So do you see how she came to me, and we left on screen time? So I felt no urgency. I trusted she was fine, because I said, hey, come up with a better idea. And then I said, my needs are going to be met. And they were. And then she came up with an idea that also met my needs that worked better for her. So we shifted, we pivoted.
Yes. And you guys created a win-win that honors both your needs and her needs in a way that works for both of you. And yes, she'll be really bummed if she has to give you the $5, but it was a decision she made. So it's so much easier to accept that consequence as well.
Yeah, we even went over, because she'll get bummed. I said, if it happens again and I just, take the money, how do we handle it so that, you don't get all upset and withdraw, but you sort of take it as, hey, it was a bet and I lost the bet. It was a competition and I lost. Like, I'm disappointed, but hey, I get it. And we'll try again.
Yeah, I love that. You created a connection to impact and made it matter because it was meaningful, not because she was scared and did it out of fear.
Right.
And I love that. I love the energy around that and the connection that remains as a result of that. And you mentioned, it doesn't just exist in the world of kids and adults or kids and kids. It's us too. And the dishwasher is a perfect example.
Well, she, before we jump into the dishwasher, she was happy to do this. Mm-hmm. She really wants to remember.
Yes.
And she wants to find a way that can increase the stakes that's fun for her. So she was very excited to do this versus a punishment. So it's not so much the action, it's the energy behind it. Because I could have come up and said, the next time this happens, you're going to pay me $5.
Right.
That would have felt very different to her. She would not have been happy with that.
Yes.
So I think there's this whole idea, but different than what you do is the energy behind what you do.
Yes. And is preserving collaboration in that so that you want to matter, but they want to matter also. And when you both can approach it in a way that honors that mattering, that mutual mattering, that feels great.
Yeah, I like that. And that's where it also helps me, because if it happens again and she pays me $5, I know that matters to her. Mm-hmm. So I know it wasn't that it didn't matter. It was that, hey, something happened in her world where she didn't have the capacity to do it, not because it didn't matter. Mm-hmm. And to me, that brings us into the dishwasher. For some reason, I have this habit of loading the dishwasher, putting the soap in the dishwasher, closing the dishwasher, and not turning it on. And for some reason, I don't know what, I still to this day have no idea what goes on in my brain. I've set alarms. I've written Post-it notes all over the place. I mean, I've asked the kids to help me, and I just forget. It's this weird thing. And it definitely matters. And it's not a big deal. Like, I'm not purposely not doing it just to have big dishes, because I'm the one that unloads them. So then I have to wash them in the morning when the dishwasher doesn't go on. So we came up with another thing, which was, hey, Alona, if I forget, I'm going to give you a 10-minute massage. So before, you would call up and be sort of frustrated, like, Matt, you forgot the dishwasher, even though we talked about it, and there's sticky notes everywhere all over the kitchen. And, and I would say, oh, I'm so sorry. I would feel ashamed, embarrassed. Like, the voice is like, why aren't you remembering this stupid dishwasher? And now you call up.
You've heard me? No, I'm just kidding. Oh, now I get excited.
Yeah, now you get excited.
I'm like, woohoo, got a 10-minute massage.
Right. See, now instead of saying, why didn't you do the dishwasher? Yes. You're calling up and saying, I get a 10-minute massage, and you're singing upstairs. And I'm like, damn, I forgot again. Not because I don't mind, I don't want to give you a massage, but because I want to figure out why I can't remember. Yes. But it helps with the shame, because it becomes a gamified sort of fun thing that you and I created. It didn't feel imposed on me. Like, Matt, the next time you do this, this consequence is going to happen. So it's really, and now it matters, because if I'm giving you a massage, it's not that I'm just not caring. And I think it helps raise the stakes in that way, not only for me, but it helps you realize it does matter.
Yes. It creates a mutual sense of mattering and respect. when you not only co-create the consequence, but when you meet it and validate, that mattering in that respect.
Right.
So,
and the energy again is very different if you're imposing it on me versus I'm coming up with it. I think it even feels better to you. If you imposed a massage and then you thought I was resentfully doing a massage, you wouldn't enjoy the massage.
oh, yes.
You still
No. Well, no. I would feel bad about asking for it.
Mm-hmm.
I would feel bad about calling it out because, and that's again, if you're doing something out of obligation or punishment, the cost to me in that disconnection is great.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important that I came up with this for myself and asked you to help me. So I'm basically asking you, can you please help me meet my need for consideration or mattering or remembering? Mm-hmm. And this is helping me. So now when you tell me I owe you a 10-minute massage, it's because you're contributing to me, not punishing me.
Yes. And you're coming from a place of, looking internally for your cues versus waiting for an external delivery of you did or did not meet those expectations.
Exactly.
And I love that because when you start learning how to do that, it seeds out into other areas of your life. When you're connecting to impact, that happened last night, right? We finally had, Kylie was at a friend's house and Jordan and you and I were so excited we were going to go to the movies together. And we hadn't done that in a really long time. We're on our way to the movies and Kylie texts, I forgot my phone. Can you guys bring it after the movie? Now, this friend lives 45 minutes to an hour away from where we live.
And with Friday Los Angeles traffic,
Yes.
It'd be an hour and a half.
Yes. And so I was so conflicted because I knew that it mattered to her. And, there's a part of me that didn't want to disappoint her. And at the same time, I just could not wrap my head around driving for 3 hours, potentially, 2 at best, to give her a phone. And so I shared that vulnerably. I said, oh, baby, I would so love to meet your need. And at this very moment, I can't think of a way to do that without significant impact. So let me share with you what I'm feeling. And I shared that it would be at best a 2-hour ride to get her the phone. The movie didn't end until later in the evening, so it wouldn't even be till really late that night. And, and then I connected with her and said, so I really love for you to think, how important is this for you? Because if it were life and death, I'd drive 2 hours, right?
So there you empathized with her and cared about her needs too and tried to understand what she was experiencing. And that's what people want. They want you to step into their experience.
Yes. And the non-permissive part was also a request. And I'm wondering if you can flex knowing the impact and, do without your phone tonight.
Which I like that as well, because instead of saying it's ridiculous that you would ask me to even go or expect me to drive out there, versus it's not ridiculous. It's a request. I'm glad she asked.
Yes.
And then you said, hey, it is a flex for her. If she doesn't have her phone, all her friends do. And this is a whole different show, but they text to each other while they're right next to each other.
Yes.
But she's going to be missing out on some of the connection with her friends.
Yes.
And you were caring about that and asking her to check in. So she's basically flexing, saying, you know what, Mom, I'd like to contribute to you as well and not have you come out.
Yeah. And that was her response. Sure. But can you bring it tomorrow when you pick me up? And that was it. And then there was I connected to her later and she was sharing some of her experiences, asked about our movie. There was no animosity around that.
Yeah, because if you could easily have gone into, you don't care about me, you're not bringing it out, or you could have had animosity towards, how could you ask me to bring that phone?
No, I'm not bringing a phone to you, drive 2 hours just to get you a phone.
Stupid. Exactly.
Yeah.
Versus really caring about her world and helping her see the impact. And I think she shifted also because at first she was like, you bring the phone. And again, the kid brain, the not fully developed brain, doesn't connect to the 2 hours round trip of traffic and the driving and the timing to make dinner and all these things. And when you brought that out and made that very clear, the impact, you raised the impact to the point that she was almost on her own going to say, you know what? I don't think that's worth it. It doesn't work for me, even if you would say yes, because that's too much on you.
Yeah. And although it might seem like that veered off our original topic, I'm going to bring it back to that topic, which is the more we can connect our children to internal motivation and understanding their impact, the more that seeds out into how they show up in the world, whether it's around an agreement or not an agreement.
Exactly. And I think that was what you did beautifully and why it relates to what we're talking about tonight, which is the impact. How can you get them to connect to the impact?
Topics and tools.
Matt, share with us our tool for today. How can you get them connected to the impact?
Yes. Well, I think before we jump into the tool, I just want to make clear that some people think collaboration is a little bit weak, and that, and maybe someone would say, hey, how could you even negotiate with the phone? And I think that collaboration doesn't weaken accountability. I think it deepens it. I think you working together, it's really important to collaborate. And that when you collaborate, you get them to connect to each other's needs.
Not only that, but I love that question. How can you even collaborate with her on that? Because I trust that she does care. The only reason I wouldn't want to collaborate with her is if I didn't trust that. If I thought she doesn't care, so I have to impose my will to get her obedience.
Exactly. And disappointment that you have, or frustration in that case, or exhaustion, it's real, but it unless it creates a felt shift in their world, it's not going to shape their memory or their awareness or their brains effectively. So we have to work with them to not only connect to our frustration or our exhaustion or whatever we're feeling, but help them really get a felt sense of it. I think that's important too.
Yeah. And I'll caveat the exhaustion. The exhaustion is not around, obviously partly every little thing. Parenting is hard. And parenting mindfully and parenting, we have a finite amount of energy. And if in collaborative parenting, you're spending an amount of that energy working together with your kids, but the reward that comes of that is thousandfold, I would say.
For sure.
The ability to be able to connect to our daughters in the way that we connect to them is gold, is a gift that truly keeps giving.
Exactly. And that's what, we don't ground, we don't punish, but we do make sure needs are met and that impact is felt and we're all aware of it. And I think if people realize that a missed agreement or failing to do something is not always defiance, frequently it's not, but it's often a moment that just didn't emotionally register for the child. And that if we can come from that energy, seeing their humanity, seeing their good intention behind a failed agreement or failed follow-through, connection develops as a result, trust builds, and magic starts to happen in the relationship.
Yeah. And I think if we're truly teaching, if we take those opportunities as teaching moments, then we are showing them, modeling for them a different way, not forcing them into it. Exactly.
So the tool that I think helps with all of this is impact together.
So if you've been listening to us for a while, we get a lot of questions about what to do in tricky parenting or relationship moments.
Yeah, and
if I'm being real, I'm asking Alona those same questions all the time. I get into those same tricky moments as everybody else does. And as much as we wish we could be there for each other in those exact moments, we just can't always be.
Yeah, that's why we partnered with the amazing team at Connectin to create something we truly believe in, an AI coach called Amari. And we didn't just lend our names, we helped build it and train it and brought in everything we've learned about emotional healing, connection, and communication.
Yeah, we spent years training and learning, and we've created Amari, who is so calm and grounded, listens deeply and responds with warmth, clarity, and compassion. There's no judgment, no reactivity. In fact, we tasked our children with trying to get Amari reactive, and they still haven't succeeded. It's just steady support when you need it most.
We use it ourselves all the time, especially when we feel stuck or overwhelmed. And Amari's really helped us pause, reflect, given us insight that helps us come back to each other.
Yeah, we designed Amari to help you strengthen the relationships that matter most, starting with the one you have with yourself.
And we are so excited that you can try it now at webeparents.com and click on We Be Connectin with a K to sign up. And when you have your Amari moment, please let us know, as we'd love to hear about it.
So the theme is together, a collaborative practice to co-create meaningful follow-through that kids actually remember. And that's the key. They actually remember it and respect it. And when do you use it? When a child misses an agreement and the natural consequence doesn't carry enough weight to make those moments memorable. And I think that's important. There's a lot of time where things that are important to us don't inherently matter to the child, but when they connect to the fact that it matters to you, then we connect to their contribution for caring about that. That's when something great can happen. That's where we can work together. So
Yes.
The first step is to pause and name the missed agreement, like we did with the iPad. Hey, we agreed to turn the iPad off at 7. It didn't happen tonight. And by the way, it's important to start and talking about this after they trust that we see their good intentions. So it's not right in the moment when they're going to feel shame. At 7:01, I say, hey, I want to talk about something, about an agreement that didn't follow through. How are you feeling? Can we do that right now? And then I can even give them a little reassurance. Hey, I want you to hear that I know that, keeping your agreements matters to you. You value trust and integrity. And at the same time, sometimes we fail to do that. So there's a little bit of extra softening for the landing.
Yeah. Well, I love that you shared it as an observation and not an evaluation. What do I mean by that is that Marshall Rosenberg, kind of the father of nonviolent communication, often said the biggest difference between an observation and evaluation is an observation is like you're looking through a movie, a camera, and you're just noting what you saw. So it was, we agreed to turn the iPad off at 7. It didn't happen tonight. Now, hey, you didn't meet your agreement. You broke your agreement because you didn't turn the iPad off. That blame and, which often sparks shame and defensiveness and an evaluation.
Right. And we can't come with that neutral observation if we're feeling triggered and we have enemy images of our kid not caring about us. So part of what we talked about, if you can really wrap your head around that philosophy, that it's more of a brain memory thing. It's a brain registering thing.
Yes.
You will shift your energy, which will shift how they hear you.
I think one of the things that helps me remember that is my own, facing my own fallacies. And the times when I don't meet an agreement, and it could feel so benign, like I'm on my phone. Oh, I'll be there in 5 minutes. And 5 minutes go by and I'm not there. That's a broken agreement. I said something and didn't live up to that word. And how many parents find themselves in that situation? Not because we don't care about our kids, because we momentarily got lost in what we were doing. So
that energy, that seeing their good intention, all is part of this package of this tool.
yeah,
And then the obstacle, because you could say, hey, we agreed to turn the iPad off at 7. It didn't happen tonight, but you're angry, or historically there's shame, and you have to help them with that because they're like, oh, they're shaming me again. So there's a lot that goes into this.
Yeah.
The next would be reflecting together on why it didn't land. Like, hey, did you forget? Or, were you just hoping I wouldn't notice? Was this something really important about the show? Did you swipe the alarm up by accident without paying attention to it? Mm-hmm. So I'm making guesses that they can, almost a menu of guesses that show that I'm trying to understand their world and not just assume they don't care. And then ask, hey, well, what would help this stick in your brain a little bit better? Do we need to add something that makes this more real for you next time? Can we make this more fun? Like, let's think of something fun that could happen that makes this like a competition. Because I'm hearing that you really want to remember. And then you co-design the impact. Would a small, money penalty feel fair? Would some type of alert? Would you want to join the massage club and give me a massage? But let them choose the follow through, and have them help design that. Mm-hmm. You can come up with a menu of options, but let them pick, and then say, hey, come up with some ideas. Let's talk about it. We don't have to solve it right now, but I'd love for you to come back to me because that's what's going to meet my need for mattering.
yes. And remembering in all of this that, I liked what you did with Kylie, which was when she couldn't come up with anything, not to leave it at that, but it's until you can come up with something, it'll be my way. And then when you can, we can talk about it. And I'm not doing it my way because I'm punishing you, but because it doesn't seem like we have another alternative to consider.
Yeah, and that's because I've had many times where I said, okay, we'll figure it out. And then days go by and there's no change. Mm-hmm. And then it happens again. And I realize, and then I get even more angry because we didn't address it. So it's very important. And it has been something I learned is quite helpful. And then the last is return to connection. Just by saying, hey, I trust you. I know you care about this. Let's just keep practicing together. We're going to get this. And now you're together. You're a team trying to help meet everybody's needs.
I love it. So let's just summarize those 5 steps. So you pause and you name the missed agreement, and you make that an observation, not an evaluation. You reflect together on why it didn't land, and that could be something simple as, what do you think happened? You ask, what might help that stick better? And then you co-design what the impact would be, and you return to connection, which is, this is a work in progress, and we're doing it together.
This shared structure is essential, this collaboration. And I think we can move on to no skills versus pro skills to show the difference.
Yes.
So I think we could even show a similar example. 13-year-old says they're going to turn something off. They don't turn it off. What's the no skills look like?
I said turn it off now. And if you don't, you're not going to be able to use that device for who knows how long.
I have had enough.
Yes.
No iPad for the rest of your life. We say something that's really doable. And then as it's coming out of my mouth, I'm like, well, how am I going to keep that agreement?
Right.
How am I going to back out of that? And the tone is, frustrated, reactive. The kids, they will roll their eyes. They will slam something. That's their way of saying, hey, this doesn't work for me, but I'm too scared to really say it. So they do it with eye rolls and slamming and socks.
Or withholding
Yeah.
their love or their affection or...
Yeah. And then that unspoken message is care and mattering isn't happening for me. Mm-hmm. And it's hard for parents because they're like, why would it give you your need for mattering? My need for mattering is not being met. And there's a little empathy collision.
Yes. Well, it one builds on the other because when they don't show up and say, after you've shamed and blamed them, they don't show up and say, oh, I'm so sorry, I regret doing that. Then you're triggered again. Why can't they just take accountability? They're the ones in the wrong.
Exactly. Spiral.
Yes. It's a downward spiral with... that comes at a great cost.
And the child doesn't learn how to hold an agreement. They learn how to brace for consequences.
Yes.
That's not what I want them to learn. So with Impact Together, this collaborative accountability, same scenario, iPad's on, it's 5 minutes after 7. Hey, we agreed on 7, and it looks like that didn't happen. Let's talk about why this isn't sticking. We want to talk about it now, or maybe we can come back in 15, 20 minutes as we calm down a little bit. I just want this to feel fair, and I want it to really work for both of us. And that is calm and curious and connected, and the child would be more like, oh, I forgot. I was finishing and I really care about this, and let's come up with an idea. And then you start thinking of ideas. And the unspoken message is that your child's voice matters. They're trusted to help fix this. The agreement feels real because 2 people are required for an agreement. Only one is for punishment. And the consequence actually has meaning to them because they created it. So the child remembers not because they were punished, but because they were part of the repair. And they connected to your needs, and they connected to the impact, and they want it to matter when all of their needs are cared for too. Not about getting away with it. It's about learning how to stay with it.
Yeah. And I think the connection that bridges, they feel like they matter, which increases their desire to show you how much you matter, versus the other side, which is resenting obedience to the point of how many kids have you heard? I mean, growing up in an authoritarian home, how many times did I say, I can't wait to get out of here and make my own rules?
Yeah.
And our kids might be saying that, but we don't hear that, nor am I feeling that.
Well, our kids so far want to live with us while they're in college, and I'm trying to get them not to be.
Yes. Stop being so collaborative.
Yeah, I know.
Start finishing.
I'm out house. Have you thought about the East Coast?
Right.
Bringing it home.
So let's bring it home.
Let's bring it home.
We'll bring it home with skills.
Okay.
That's the hard way. We're going to do it, though. So how do we turn Impact Together into a living part of your family's culture? How do we make that part of your home? Again, it's not about getting kids to behave. It's about building this shared language around follow through, memory, and care for everybody. And they can come up all the time. I mean, come up in the car, after dinner, sibling meltdowns. But instead of imposing on them, let's bring it together. Let's bring this in. So the first thing is explain it. I love our explain it, invite it, model it, and practice it. Those are the 4 steps of bringing it home. Explain it. Make it theirs, not yours. This is where dignity and autonomy come in. It's like, hey, when your child helps shape the consequence, they're so much more likely to hold on to it themselves with care. And I think we can explain, hey, this is the key. This is the key. So when I start off, I'm going to talk to them about, hey, what's a great way for us to remember things that work for both of us? We listened to this podcast, or we were reading about it, whatever it is. Bring it home by talking about it, explaining that you want to do things differently. I really don't want to do punishment anymore. I really want to invite you to help us come up with ways to remember things, because punishment's not fun. Maybe there's a better way to help things happen the way we've all agreed.
Mm-hmm. I was actually thinking of when you invite it. I was thinking of the times where I've seen Kylie and Jordan implement it without our intervention on their own. Now they're at an age where they can share clothes. And so they each have their particulars. Jordan doesn't care if Kylie takes her things without asking her, but if they don't come back in the same exact condition, and Kylie's like, dirty Donna. I mean, she's like constantly getting herself dirty and muddled, and she's responsible for washing it to get it back to what it looked like when she borrowed it, or replace it. And Kylie has a pet peeve because Jordan will take her stuff without asking, and all of a sudden she comes downstairs and Jordan's wearing one thing or another of hers, and she didn't even ask. So, they came up with an agreement that if she does that, she doesn't get to borrow the clothes for the rest of the week.
And Jordan came up with that strategy with Kylie.
Yes, they came up with it together. Like, how do we hold each other accountable in a way that feels okay for us? And they're both okay, and they both have had to either replace an item or wash it, or not wear the clothes for whatever period of time they agreed on. So, but they came up with that together. And what was beautiful is we didn't get involved in that at all. I hear those conversations happening amongst them. So
I heard another one where Jordan was forgetting they share a bathroom. So Jordan likes to leave her clothes on the floor for a couple of weeks, hoping that they'll get clean somehow. And Kylie doesn't like that. So at first they made an agreement that it was like $1. They would each pay the other person $1 if their clothes were there in the morning when the other person came into the bathroom. So Kylie said, "Oh, you owe me $1." And Jordan did not like that. Jordan doesn't really like the money types of consequences. So for some reason she agreed and thought it just wouldn't happen again. So once she did uphold that agreement, but then said, "I want to change the agreement." So then the next time was if she leaves her clothes, she has to get Kylie her water and fill her water cup whenever Kylie asks, Jordan has to fill the water cup for the entire day. Kylie was happy with that as well. So what was nice is
I love it.
They came up with an agreement, and then they enforced it because they both agreed. And then they switched it because Jordan said, "Actually, that doesn't really work for me, but this will work."
Yes. And I love the creativity and the goodwill. The ability to flex on, okay, that strategy doesn't work for both of us. Let's find one that does.
Exactly.
So that all comes from trusting that you matter, trusting that the other person truly cares about you. And so that natural goodwill comes into play. So I love it.
Right.
Explain it, invite it.
And then model it. I think for them, the big one for me, modeling, is the dishwasher. And I tell them, "Hey, I have a hard time remembering." And then when mom calls up and says, "Matt," I'm like, "Oh God, I forgot the dishwasher again." And I feel some shame sometimes. And Kylie is more like me where she'll go into shame. Jordan will be like, "Oh, I made a mistake. I'm so sorry." But either way, I'm modeling my experience. And then I say, "Okay, I'm going to try the massage thing." And then the next time it happened, I looked at Jordan. We were upstairs watching a movie. And I said, "Looks like I owe mom a massage for 10 minutes. And Jordan smiled. And it wasn't this big deal, but she was seeing that it was happening to me. And she's heard us talk, Kylie as well, just showing them your humanity.
Yeah.
And modeling how you do it.
Yeah. I love it. And then practicing it, keeping the intention around connection and collaboration and getting creative over strategies, inviting them to share strategies that will work for them, and keeping an open mind to check in. Sometimes as parents, we resist their proposed strategies. Could we somehow think we're getting the raw end of the deal versus, hey, how much does it really matter to me what strategy we use here, as long as the outcome is the one that we desire.
And I like that. It's more about our connection than it is about anything else. Hold the connection tightly and prioritize that.
Yes.
And I think the language is also helpful too. We model that and practice that language, and sometimes we'll ask them to redo the language if they're willing. But instead of like, "We agreed to do this and you didn't do that," it's to soften it up, to give the other person the grace to be able to say, "Oh yeah, I forgot, sorry." And when you come at them hot, or you're coming in hot, it's much harder to do that. So if we want them, and that's what we've taught as well, if we want the other person to be able to say, "Whoops, I know this matters to you and I forgot," we need to come at them soft, not hot.
Yeah. And there are a lot of ways that, a lot of different ways that could sound. It could be, "I'm not mad. I'm just trying to find something that helps this really land for both of us." Or, "This matters to me, and my guess is it matters to you too. We just need a better way to help with remembering it."
Yeah. And I love we do the redo. So you could say, "Hey, you want to hit the reset button? You want to redo? We'll try again tomorrow. But let's tweak the plan a little bit. Let's change things around, give ourselves a better chance of hitting the mark here."
Yeah, I love that. And I love that what's being created is a system of collaborative accountability, not control. Mm-hmm. A system that your child can trust and that you can trust and that you together help to build it.
Right. And then they're trying to meet needs instead of avoiding consequences. It's about designing them together so they carry meaning, not shame.
Just one last thing.
When we teach through connection, not control, we raise kids who don't just remember the rule, they remember the relationship.
I love that. Remember the relationship, not just the rule.
Mm-hmm.
Gold. So I would love to invite everybody to subscribe and rate and review the podcast. We really appreciate that. It helps get the word out. Also, please share stories of trying this at home. Send questions and your stories to parents@webetogether.com. And join us next week as we explore listeners and letters from them and get to hear how we can deepen into this concept and idea of collaborative agreements and raising the stakes through connecting to impact.
Love it. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.